Well, hello, friends of the Albany Presbytery. Greetings from the Green Mountains, not too far away. I'm so grateful to all that you do. The Capital District is home for me in many ways. I spent much of my life living in the Adirondacks, listening to WAMC and reading the Times-Union, and I know what an important place it is. Right now, with Washington gridlocked, it's entirely possible that the two most important cities in America for climate progress are Sacramento and Albany. And there are good things happening as we come to this Earth Day, real possibilities. Let's do the hard stuff first. Obviously, we're in a tough place. You all saw that it was 70 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in the Antarctic last month. That's not a good sign. That's a big number. That's scary. It's a signal of how much we have upset the world around us. And of course, we've all watched with horror the pictures coming back from Ukraine. They're caused by the same thing. It's the fossil fuel industry hard at work. Vladimir Putin can only do what he does because he's got oil and gas. 60% of his export earnings come from oil and gas. That's what funds his army. Go look around your house, see if you can find anything Russian to boycott, unless there's a old bottle of Stolichnaya sitting in the back of your liquor cabinet. I bet you can't find a thing, because he's just a big gas station is all he is. And he uses that as his main weapon. The threat to cut off gas to Western Europe has kept France and Germany cowering for decades, even as he's bullied his way around Central Europe. So we know what the problem is. We know, as what the good book would call the powers and principalities in our world are. It's the fossil fuel industry. And we know how to tame them. We don't need their product anymore. In the last 10 years, great scientists and engineers have done so much to bring us possibility. They've dropped the price of solar panels and wind turbines by 90%. What does that mean? That means that there's no longer any technical or financial reason we couldn't make very rapid progress. We could be rolling out renewable energy at an extraordinary pace. I just wrote a long piece for the New Yorker arguing, in fact, that we've reached the moment in human history when it's no longer necessary for our species to be burning stuff. We can take that 200,000-year-old habit and snuff it out, which would be great. It would defund despots, it would stabilize the climate, and it would prevent the 9 million people a year who die from breathing the combustion byproducts of fossil fuel. 9 million is no small number. That's more than got killed by COVID and HIV, AIDS, and malaria, and tuberculosis, and war, and terrorism combined last year. So if we're serious about loving our neighbor, for all these reasons, we've got to do this. New York State is poised to make huge progress here. And New York's already begun doing some of the right things around, say, divestment of some of its pension funds from fossil fuel. Not all of them, though. The teachers in particular haven't done it, despite the great efforts of young people to get them to. So if you know anybody at the teachers' retirement system, please get them involved with this important work. State legislature also is on the edge of real history. Maybe by the time you see this, it will have passed a bill that would ban new gas hookups on new construction in New York State, which would be an extraordinary signal. It's entirely doable now. We can run our houses easily on electric heat pumps and induction cooktops and so forth. We don't need open flame in the basement or the kitchen. But of course, all the usual suspects are lined up to stop it, because their plan is to keep us burning stuff till the end of time, an end of time that they're bringing on as fast as they can. So we've got to combine, and it's got to be young people combined with, I guess you'd say, old people like me, those of us in our 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. We've even got a few centenarians who've joined in that third act, this national group that we've been developing to push hard for progressive change, to protect the climate and to protect the democracy, two things that go hand in hand. It's really fun to try and recapture the generational DNA because we're of an age in our first act to have seen remarkable things. The beginning of, the beginning of the women's movement and the apex of the civil rights movement and the anti-war movement, and of course the first Earth Day. Time to recapture that now. Time to get back into that space. Time to make it clear that we're serious about passing on a world. Well, I'm afraid it's not going to be as good a world as the one we found, but a world no more tattered than need be to our children and our grandchildren. Faith. There's a big faith component at Third Act, a big faith working group that's doing much of this work. And I hope that you can all figure out ways to join in one way or another, because it's that kind of group action that we need at this point. We're past the point where we can do this one person at a time, one Tesla at a time, one vegan dinner at a time. The most important thing an individual can do is join together with other individuals to make a difference. I was baptized Presbyterian. Once I had made it out to the Adirondacks, that's Methodist country, so that's what I've been since. But I think that we have one luxury as people of faith, which is that we can tell ourselves that if we do absolutely everything we can, then perhaps there are forces at work in this world that will meet us halfway. It's easy to be very despairing about climate change, and sometimes I am. And those are the moments when I'm grateful for a certain amount of faith. That doesn't mean that we sit back and rely on God to fix everything. That there's not the slightest warrant for that anywhere in the good book. In fact, as people of faith, we have every reason to work harder than anybody else. We know what we're called to do. We know what it means to steward creation. We know what it means to love one's neighbor. So on this birthday, and in this beautiful spring, and with Easter still in our hearts, let's get to work. Let's get to work as best we can and do what we can. The planet is way outside its comfort zone, so we need to be outside of ours. Thanks.